Playoff football is upon us, and after picking every game of the regular season and trying to get a sub 100 loss season, a 10-6 record in week 18 left our full season record at 172 and 100. 100 losses even on the year. I will take that. I wanted sub 100, but it's a nice even number to look at as we head into the wildcard round. And for this weekend only, we're going to be doing a video for each day, meaning 2 game picks today, 3 game picks tomorrow, and then 1 game pick on Monday, just for a little bit of playoff fun. So there are only 2 games to pick. Hopefully that means a little more analysis, a little more, thought behind the specifics when we go into these picks. And of course, we start with the first game of the wildcard round, Browns at Texans, 4:30 p.m. Eastern kickoff today. Now this exact matchup, including the home and away teams, already occurred earlier this year, and the Browns won pretty handily 36-22. One key factor though, CJ Stroud was hurt, and frankly, in my opinion, he is the Texans, and he is most certainly an X factor in this game. The Browns defense is not nearly as good on the road this year. Their points per game difference between home and away is insane. And obviously, the Texans being at home, hosting a playoff game for the first time in years, with all these rookies, Will Anderson, CJ Stroud, Nico Collins, DeMeco Ryans himself is a rookie head coach. There's going to be a lot of hype with the team and frankly with the fans. I really do like that aspect of it, and I like that they're not going to have to deal with the weather that's going through the Northeast right now. We'll get into the Dolphins-Chiefs game and that weather later, but certainly a benefit for the Texans, a dome team, that they don't have to travel to Cleveland and get what would be, I would imagine, pretty significant weather there as well. We know CJ Stroud is capable of handling big moments. We saw it in the SEC title game against Georgia last year. Great performance by Stroud. Wasn't quite enough in the end, but still, he played unbelievably well. Not only that, we know that they've kind of been in playoff mode now. Last week was a de facto playoff game against the Colts, and they were able to get the win in that one. He had the 75-yard touchdown pass, first play of the game, looked great. Then kind of things settled down, and they were ultimately able to get a 6-point win. Turning to the Browns side of things, they did rest starters last week, so that's always a concern, especially going into, a wild card matchup. Maybe the urgency and stuff is a little bit different, and a team that is certainly in the Texans coming off a de facto playoff matchup maybe comes into that with a little bit of an edge. Joe Flacco has played so well for the Browns, and frankly, I think he is the reason they are the 5 seed. I mentioned the defense and how they're not as good on the road, but with a week of rest, I think there's going to definitely be a little more juice on that side of the ball. For me, this matchup comes down to predicting which one of 2 things is going to occur. Is Joe Flacco going to continue to turn the ball over at a fairly high rate? I believe he has 9 turnovers in 5 games, 8 of those being interceptions. You give CJ Stroud too many possessions, even against a good defense, they're going to get yards, they're going to score points. Or is the Texans offensive line going to have too many pass protection breakdowns against that elite pass rush led by Myles Garrett? I think I'm kind of leaning towards that. I really want to pick the Texans in this. I like CJ Stroud in big games. He's impressed me so much this year. And, the coaching matchup, Stefanski has a little bit of playoff experience. That obviously helps. DeMeco Ryans, even as a player, didn't get a whole lot, but he did get a bunch in San Francisco. Keep that in mind. This is not his first rodeo when it comes to preparing for a playoff game and getting a unit ready. I still, though, watching the Colts game last week, I saw too many pass protection breakdowns where either there were big sacks or Stroud had to pull a Houdini move to get out of there. I do think Flacco is going to gift the Texans at least 1 extra possession, maybe 2. But I think the Browns' defense is going to be able to hold the Texans to 3 more times than not, and I think that's going to be the difference in the game. It's a playoff game. They're generally all close, all low scoring, especially between a 4 and a 5 seed like this. I think there's going to be more field goals than maybe we would expect. I'm not going to pick scores for all these, but if I were to set an over-under for field goals or field goal attempts, let's say, 4.5 or 5.5, I think there's going to be a lot of kicks in this game. Looking forward to it, and it will be a very different viewing experience in that dome Then our next matchup of the Dolphins visiting the Chiefs for a frigid wildcard matchup. We're looking at highs in the single digits, lows of around -10, and a kickoff temperature below 0, with wind chills 25 below. If this forecast even remotely holds up, this will be one of the coldest games in NFL history and the coldest game for the Miami Dolphins ever. Not only are we looking at a warm weather team facing the elements, they're also facing a really unfortunately timed injury bug. We know about Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb, but they've also had Andrew Van Ginkel go down. Cameron Good is out, Jerome Baker's also out, and they've now listed Xavier Howard as out for this game as well. So they are very light on defense, and the guys that are rushing the passer now, they're not even players that were with the team at the beginning of the year. That's not really the defense you want playing against Mahomes. And I do wonder how much, pass rush and that sort of thing will be a factor in this game. It's going to be so cold. I think teams are going to try to lean on the run, and if the Dolphins can commit to that and stay patient with it, I think this is where they stand a fighting chance. Look at their yards per carry this year. Raheem Mostert is averaging 4.8 per carry. Devon Achane is at 7.8. Even Jeff Wilson's at 4.6, and Chris Brooks, who hasn't played much at all, he was even at 5.6. All these guys have a great average yards per carry, and if they can stick with it, as I said, and if they can stay patient with it, that may be where they stand a fighting chance. Because I think in the passing game, it's going to be tough, but more importantly than that, let's say they can get the passing game going in that frigid weather. Assuming they can, I'm going to somewhat assume the Chiefs can, though the drops issue could be something else to talk about. I think the more important thing is to keep the Chiefs offense off the field. If you keep going 3 and out, if you keep trying passes in tough weather to throw and catch in, let alone what the wind might be doing, and just giving the ball back to the Chiefs, that's just not a recipe to win in Arrowhead in weather that frankly your team is just not built for. This is a team that is able to thrive when it's warm, they can get going to full speed, and they're able to just, perform at peak athletic ability. This is not that type of game. This is a grind it out, tough it out, willpower type of game. And I do think that is the one way for the Dolphins to win. And again, they've got this yards per carry, but they don't run the ball that often. They get away from it far too easily. And I do think the Chiefs defense will be able to handle it, but we'll see. It's kind of a pick your poison type of thing. Do you want to try to stop the run, or do you want to devote resources to stopping Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle? They need to be able to strike a balance there, but I think they got to lean on the run and stay with it. On the other side of things, I think primarily the Chiefs, of course, want to be able to run the ball as well, and they've done a good job of that with Pacheco. Again, when they commit to the run, they can be a pretty solid running team. I do think we're going to see some short passes over the middle. I think we're going to see Mahomes doing Mahomes things, scrambling around, trying to make things happen. Depending on the amount of snow, we may see more or less of that than normal, but it's a playoff game. Typically, we see more so-called Mahomes magic moments where he's running around trying to make things happen, scrambling, just outrunning the next defender for a first down, whatever it may be. I do think we're going to see that kind of stuff. The Chiefs passing game, because it's not such a rhythm passing game, I think they may be able to get it going more. Receivers coming back to the quarterback, scramble drills, that kind of stuff I think can work, and that's just not Tua's forte. However, they got to catch the ball. If we have Kadarius Toney and Travis Kelce, Rashee Rice, Sky Moore, whoever, having tipped balls go into the air and giving Miami extra possessions, that's the recipe to lose the game. So ideally for the Chiefs, they can lean on the run. I don't know if they'll be as effective in that, and I think they are going to need to pass. So it's going to be on Mahomes to move around, to buy time, and get the ball to receivers in enough open space where maybe he can take a little bit off it and give them a softer catch. Ultimately, we're talking about Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. They're going to have something figured out for this game. And with so many injuries to the Dolphins, not only their entire pass rush, but also with Xavier Howard out, I just think it's too much. I think it's too much to overcome. There's that one factor I talked about, Mahomes scrambling and making these magic moments. With limited pass rush, and you gotta think their pass rush is gonna take a big hit from that. I think Mahomes is gonna have more time to do that, more ability to make those things happen, and I mean, any inclement weather game is low scoring. But I think that's the X factor for the Chiefs. I like him at home, I like him in the weather, especially against a warm weather team, and I really like Mahomes making 1 or 2 plays to be the difference in the game, with or without the drops. I think there's one more play that the Chiefs offense makes than the Dolphins offense makes, taking the Chiefs to get the win at home, and that is going to wrap up our simple 2-game wildcard weekend kickoff video. So I will be keeping track of our playoff picks record as well. We'll see what we do for the 2023 playoffs, but that is going to do it for this short wildcard video. So let me know who you think is winning both of these games, Browns at Texans and Dolphins at Chiefs, in the comments below. As always, enjoy the games, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video for the Sunday games.